Today's episode is sponsored by Future State Media, experts in off-Amazon traffic for Amazon sellers. Future State Media will build you a custom-made website to deliver sales for you on Amazon. Built to grab traffic from search engines and social media, your site can be used as a secret weapon for launching products on Amazon or just to stabilize your Amazon sales. It means you can also build an email list on autopilot. Go to futurestatemedia.com for your free guide to Google SEO for Amazon sellers today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 10K Collective podcast, which is a subset of the Amazing FBA podcast. It's all about Amazon, but we're aiming for 6, 7, 8-figure sellers with the 10K Collective podcast. Today's guest hopefully should help give you back some time. John Cavendish from SellerCandy is an Amazon seller, and there's their Amazon seller central personal assistants at SellerCandy as well. John's also a Brit, but very much abroad. Where are you coming to us today from today, John?
Well, thanks for having me, Michael. Today I'm coming to you from Nha Trang in Vietnam, a coastal city.
Sounds cool.
And
yeah, I just moved house. Excellent. Yeah, so you're presumably locked down there for the moment. This is in sort of mid-May 2020, rather than coming back to Britain. But I presume you wouldn't necessarily want to come back to Britain from the sound of it. Sounds like the Vietnamese are having quite a good crisis compared to the Brits.
Exactly. Actually, lockdown has just ended.
Really?
In Vietnam, so we can go out and about. They still want us to wear masks, but only about 50% of people are wearing masks. Gyms open, bars are open. So yeah, we're back out and about now.
Wow.
There's 0 deaths and like under 300 cases here.
Wow, it's quite the contrast to London, where I think the latest I've read was 33,000 official deaths in the UK, of which something like half are in London, which is, I'm right in the thick of it. So around the corner I think there's a hospital that's had the most deaths in the UK because they specialise in, not because they're bad, because they're good. They specialise in treating COVID. But yeah, wow, what a contrast. So, well, let's put all that nasty stuff aside and plunge into the safe world of e-commerce. And let's talk about SellerCandy. So you guys do, just give us a quick summary of what you guys do there, first of all, so we know what we're talking about.
So basically, we do anything inside Seller Central. So we kind of see ourselves as like a Seller Central personal assistant. So it's like having somebody on a staff who knows Seller Central inside out, can do anything you want. If you just ask them to fix something, do anything, you communicate with us like you would somebody on your team who knows exactly what they're doing. So it's like having somebody on your team that can fix anything but requires no training, no management, and can just start tomorrow. Because the biggest thing I found when I was running my FBA business, and I've still got 7-figure FBA business, is that when you get somebody on the team, it's a pain to find them, pain to train them, and then if you hire somebody cheap, and we're in the mid-price to relatively low price range, they kind of become indispensable because you've trained them. So if something goes wrong, you have to retrain this person all over again because you haven't hired somebody at the level that you can afford to pay somebody with the skill set already. So what we did is we thought, okay, let's kind of build a service that means that you can get somebody to start tomorrow. You don't need to train them, and they can do any kind of simple thing on Amazon Seller Central. And actually, not necessarily simple, but by simple I mean anything that doesn't require a strategic brain.
Yeah, so that there's a very important distinction you just made there, because I think the strategy is one thing, and there's a lot of complication in finding how to sort out an issue on Seller Central. For example, some friends of mine were just talking to me about reviews, and if you get a review removed for a child ASIN because they've recently stopped, putting the reviews from one ASIN, a child, applying to all of the listings within one set of variations or under parent listing, and sometimes the algorithm will remove things, and then you have to go back to the right team and try and get it put back. So in essence, it's one little tactical logistical problem which can be solved with an email to the right person, but figuring out who to email and what the process is sometimes an enormously difficult, time consuming, and you have to ask everybody you've ever met how to do it. So is that the kind of thing you would deal with, or do you not get quite into such awkward kind of edge cases?
No, we would also look at that. Something that we can definitely do. For example, at the moment, last week we had a task that was very similar to that, merging reviews from 2 listings that had been separated, and we have found that sometimes you can get them remerged. It's not all ASINs; they've split each child variation separately. And it could be something as simple as having a browse node different, or just Amazon's not merging them anymore. And if you can chase them enough, they do sometimes remerge the reviews for you.
Great. So you deal with some of the awkward tasks. I mean, there's an awful lot of that strikes me that the more advanced sellers spend a lot of time trying to figure that out. And it's kind of, how can I put this? It's like the opposite of trying to hack the system, getting reviews you don't deserve for your products. It's like trying to hack the system to get things to happen that are totally legitimate and should be there in your product, but the algorithm has flagged it up as suspicious activity. So it's figuring out, once the algorithm, frowns upon you, how to get humans to put it back together, I guess, is a summary of a lot of the things. So, all right, well, we'll talk more about some of those things. I think just tell me a little bit more about, what the pitch, I suppose, but what the concept is for hiring an agency. Because sometimes people are quite, and let's talk about this, be frank about this. Sometimes people are a bit suspicious of hiring an agencies because obviously the flip side of what you were just saying, you hire your own person and you train them up and then they quit. But there's a thing of hiring an agency in where, because they have to add their own, fees to make a profit, of course, that it could be very hard to make it work and be cost effective to hire in from the outside as a sort of complete agency. I mean, how do you deal with that sort of objection from people you work with?
Mm. So the way we deal with this objection with SellerCandy is that we're a relatively inexpensive service. We're $400 to $900 a month, depending on how much work you want done at the same time, because we kind of price it based on simultaneous tasks and also monitoring, because we do full monitoring of your listings as well, and we can be proactively fixing things. So actually, I run a full agency as well, full disclosure, and usually we're working with people who don't have a full-time Amazon person. So we are their entire Amazon team, and that's how we get around that. For SellerCandy, the amazing thing about it is that if you've got a person and they're a low wage work, not low wage, but they're a medium priced person, then they're not going to be busy 24/7 anyway. So there's a kind of a limiting belief and a belief that you need somebody who really knows your business to fix these things in Amazon Seller Central. But in reality, in Amazon Seller Central, everyone has the same issues. We've seen so many Amazon accounts. There's nothing that comes up in one account. I mean, occasionally there's something we're like, this is the first time we've seen this. That's interesting, but we fix it and then we've done it. You don't need product knowledge to fix any of these issues. It's all Amazon Seller Central issues. So, and a lot of it, as you said, is written cases, copying and pasting, and then just following up and making sure that we're getting the right team on Amazon. We're raising at the right time of day to be the Indian team or the Mexican team, not the Filipino team, because they're not going to be able to fix this type of issue. And yeah, just making sure we know what we're doing and we get to the actual result. So also, we're kind of like a buffer between you and Amazon Seller Central. So we get to the result rather than you just getting the copy and paste response back.
Yeah, which is nice because you can drive yourself quite crazy quite quickly. I mean, I think you make two good points, and then again, without sort of, I mean, just full disclosure, I'm going to be acting as an affiliate for you guys, like for a lot of people on the podcast. But in the end, what I think is more interesting for people to take away from these things is just think it through. Whoever they end up working with is think through the fact that if you've got somebody, they're not going to be busy 24/7 anyway, unless your business is at a really quite substantial size. So it's wasteful to have somebody spend all the time training up an in-house person. And as you just said, I think that's really important to recognize. And somebody was making this point in a mastermind meeting the other day. Like, guys, the Amazon side is very, very commoditized. It's very standard. You should not be focusing on that because it's not going to give you any kind of advantage or competitive advantage. And I think maybe 3-4 years ago, there was more competitive advantage to be had by understanding how to hack this stuff. I think now it's just a distraction from things that only you can do as a business owner, like really understanding your customer, really developing amazing products. And as you say, if this stuff isn't product centric, then what's it got to do with any difference between other businesses? I think you make a very important point, which goes way beyond do I hire SellerCandy or not. I think it's an extremely important point of where people put their focus in their business. And so getting wrapped up in Seller Central, I would argue, is not a good place to put your focus because it's nothing unique about it. So, okay, we've made that point, and very important one it is, I think. Let's talk about. I know you guys do account audits. I'd be very interested to see what you think the big problems are that come up. As you said, every account is pretty much interchangeable with another in terms of the Amazon side problems. So, what problems do you have, and let's give us some solutions as well.
So that's a great question. And yeah, like you said, we've been offering account audits to basically all of our customers as kind of a value add because we started the business 4 months ago. So, we've been taking on customers, growing slowly but holistically and offering these things as a way of, a massive value add because through my agency, we charge a lot of money to do an audit. We find all sorts of stuff like people having inventory placement turned on. That's an immediate saving of hundreds of dollars per month. If you're sending that in, Amazon's charging you money to take it to a certain place. You'd be surprised how many listing issues we find. Just things. People have got so many SKUs. You go to their account and they've got things which would easily be solvable, and actually just increase sales. Like increase sales next day because they've got images which are too low resolution along one side. They can't zoom in. I mean, really, really basic stuff if you've been selling on Amazon for a long time, but stuff that is super important.
Could you just go
We
through
also
that?
go through every single one of the FBA settings.
Could you just go through that?
Sorry.
Because I mean, I know obviously in an individual case, they're all going to be obvious things to anyone who's been selling for a while. But as a sort of checklist people can make for their team, what would you say?
Yeah.
So, low resolution images. What are the other things you found with that?
There's a checklist. We should have done that as an opt-in.
I was just about to say we should do that probably. Yeah. Well, if you can do something like that, I mean, like an account audit will probably give a summary of the common issues you find, which would be very worthwhile if somebody's doing it in-house, simply sitting down with their team and saying, right, here's a checklist, go through the account. Or if they get too bored with that, they can get in touch with you guys and you can do it. But yes, well, if that's something you're willing to do, we could offer that as an opt-in, I guess.
That's a good idea. We can do that. Yeah. So, I mean, basically, it would just be going through everything with a fine-tooth comb. We do have a checklist for that, though. So, yeah, I mean, let's do it.
Yeah, great.
I will get my team on it. They'll be very happy about having to do that this weekend.
Yeah, in which case, let's put it at amazingfba.com/SellerCandy, and we could get you a checklist to go through, because it just strikes me as the sort of thing that it's worth checking through. I mean, it's one thing having, like, as soon as you see something, slapping your head and going, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe we're doing that." But it's another thing having a list of things to check, because that just, it's nice to just have that from somebody who's doing it all the time, like you guys are. Anyway, so we'll promise you that, folks, if you're listening up. So yeah, give us a few more examples of the sorts of things that you figure out, you find on your travels.
Well, we don't do advertising management. That's one thing that requires strategy, but we do look at advertising in the audit, and we do find issues there. Some people are just using broad match campaigns, and we give recommendations of, this is the kind of strategy we would recommend you follow. Here are some links to look at it. The FBA shipments, stranded inventory from FBA shipments, whether it's too much or too little received, and these are things we can follow up. We also run inventory reconciliation reports, so people that haven't received refund money for all the refunds that Amazon's given for their products. So we run that, and that usually saves money. I mean, basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to find like 6 months of value for paying for our service in the audit, because then we're basically free. Yeah. So if we can find 6 months of value in our audit, then there's no reason not to keep us for 6 months, because we're giving, it's basically free help for the next 6 months. And that's what we want to be. We want to be an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also, I think if you're dealing with refunds, for example, there are people that specialize in refund hunting through the Amazon system. And yeah, if you're a significant seller, you might be owed tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars that you didn't even really think about. I mean, there's so much to be had from that side. So yeah, I think it's actually not hard to find some value at the sort of price points you were talking about, $400 to $900 a month. I mean, you should be able to get value back from that if you've got a significant sized business, I have to say. Okay, so we've got a few ways to go from here. I mean, one thing, we can dive into a bit of specifics. There are some Seller Central issues that come up quite often, and I guess we should give people a bit of tactical value with how to solve them. One of which is, for example, buy box suppression. We've got things to do like hijackers, which are obviously one of the things that come up. Something else that came up the other day in a group I'm in was talking about layering coupon codes. So be a little bit, if you can give us a little bit of some tactical advice, that would be great. So what are let's talk about buy box suppression first of all. That comes up quite often. How would you deal with that situation?
Yeah, so buy box suppression, I mean, one thing we do, everything apart from our basic package, we run full monitoring on all of your SKUs. I mean, up to 150 SKUs. So if there's any problem, like, for example, buy box suppression, we're on it immediately. And we find that there are a surprising number of sellers aren't fully monitoring their listings yet. So you might not know for 24 hours if something like this is happening. So having this is a huge value add. And then, if there is buy box suppression, we immediately start to investigate. So as you know, there's a million different reasons. Well, not a million, but there's like maybe 10 main reasons there could be buy box suppression. Obviously, you could run out of stock. Amazon could be moving your inventory between different warehousing, and then it's nothing you can do about it. But for other reasons, there could be claims against you. It could be a performance notification. It could be high return rate. It could be one of 10 different things. So we get to the bottom of that. We tell you what it is. If we can, we immediately fix this for you. If not, we tell you what we think we should do. And if it's you that have to raise an email from your main account, we'll tell you this is who you should email and this is what you should say. Because sometimes it is something that has to be sent from the master email. Please don't block this. You've made a mistake. I didn't claim it was a pesticide or it cures cancer or something like that. And all those things have happened in the past. Sorry, you're muted, Michael.
Yes, I can imagine that it doesn't cure cancer claim. Every so often you have to reassure Amazon. It's a very risk averse little algorithm they've got going on there. When I say little. Okay, what about the hijackers thing? I mean, even defining hijackers is a bit strange, isn't it? Because I mean, people get the strange ideas sometimes that they're the only person who has the right to sell a product on Amazon by definition. And actually, I guess it depends how you frame it, really, and what agreements you got in place, brand registry. So tell me how you define hijackers, and then what your takes are on that.
So that depends on the client by client basis. So as part of our onboarding documentation, we ask you, does anyone else have the rights to sell your product? So are you a wholesaler? Do you sell wholesale? And they'll tell us yes or no. Then if somebody does pop onto a listing where we're not expecting, we will raise that to you as the brand owner. We say, okay, warehouse discounts, Germany, but not Amazon, has jumped on your listing. What do you want us to do about it? Is this somebody that's approved? We've done the research. They have 1,000 units or they have 5 units. We've done the 999 trick. We've seen how many units are in stock. What do you want us to do about it? And then once we've done it once, we know how to do it next time for that particular SKU, and it stays in our system. So yeah, that's basically what we do.
Yeah, that makes sense. And defining whether you got the right to sell in it or not, even that is worth an audit, I think, because sometimes people discover that they think that nobody else has the right to sell their product, but they do actually. And that's something worth making sure you've nailed down, because you don't want to be inviting the world to sell on your listing necessarily. Okay, so what about flat files? Because I often find I'm personally moderately confident with your average kind of spreadsheet, but I always find flat files a bit of hard work. Do you deal with that sort of side of things, and what sort of issues can come up when you're doing that?
So we often do flat files. We can create flat files from scratch, or we can also download your inventory reports and then modify them and re-upload them. Flat files are kind of an art, and sometimes you just have to do it a few times, and that's why we've got our team. You kind of upload it. There's an error. We don't know why there's an error, but we go in again and we fix it and we upload it. So our aim is to always get to the end result, and that's kind of the thing, is we're aiming for the end result, not for a response like Amazon Seller Central.
Right. Okay. So in other words, you just keep doing things until it's done. You don't sort of say go back and forth.
Or it's a dead end.
Or it's a dead end. Well, yes, fair enough. Which, yeah, as you say, there's a lot of that on Amazon. Okay. And what about
dead ends? Don't have, we can push through a lot of the time. It's just sometimes there is a dead end. Sometimes eventually Amazon will say stop saying this to us.
Yes, which is fair enough. I mean, that's reality on Amazon. There are a lot of limitations of what we could do, and they have policies that haven't necessarily articulated or are buried in the terms of service, which I think is like 100 pages now. So to be fair, no human's going to remember all of that, I guess. What about brand registry? Are there particular issues that come up with that sort of side of things?
So we can't access the master brand registry account because Amazon doesn't make it very easy for third-party users to get into there, and obviously we never want to have your master login credentials. But we can do anything on the Amazon platform. So we make sure, if you've got brand registry and your products aren't enrolled, we can do the flat file upload that now links your products to your brand registry account. Like a lot of times people go around in circles trying to get Amazon to link their products to their brand registry. And so, Amazon just won't let them add it to their storefront page. So what we do is we'll do the flat file trick to make that work, which always works eventually. We can then make sure you've got brand registry working properly. We can upload certain things for you for brand registry. Like we don't do design for storefronts, but we can help upload it. We can help get it approved. We can follow up until it's approved, because sometimes you'll especially with A+ content and EBC, you'll submit something and Amazon will reject it for being boastful, or boastful is the funniest one we've had recently quite a lot. You say it's the best product ever, and they'll say it's being boastful, or they'll say you're making unsubstantiated claims of it being the best. So you have to note that this was by Marie Claire or this was by this certain magazine.
Wow. That's so
Um,
funny,
so
boastful as an
pretty
Amazon
amusing.
product listing violation. That's hilarious. Although it makes sense. I mean,
It
the
happens
word
a lot
best is,
now.
yeah, well, the word best has been banned. I think it's the same with Google Ads, isn't it? You can't say best or anything like talking caps and things. I mean, a lot of people, that used to be one of the classic bits of advice, which always shows that you're trying to deal with a hackable system that's going to change its ways quite soon. That when I started off with ASM, they were always advising you to put best everything in the title. I always used to think that's so lame. Why would that even help convert? Apparently, it did to a certain point, but Amazon's all over that now. That's hilarious that you'd even put best without any substantiation. So, deleted product listings, undeleting them. Have you got a bit of a hack for us for that? Because that's a common thing that comes up amongst
Hmm.
clients and friends that they delete a
You mean
listing and then.
deleted? You mean
Yeah, well,
accidentally deleted, or how did it get deleted?
that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, it seems to vary, you know. Yeah, some people accidentally delete a listing when they meant to close it, I guess.
Hmm.
I've
Yeah,
certainly done
so
that in the past.
yeah, deleting a listing is not really a problem, because it's the listing is in Amazon's catalog. It's not on your Amazon Seller Central account. It can be a pain if it's got a lot of variations in it. You might have to recombine the variations or something like that. What we would suggest is having a backup flat file of all your listings, because then you can get it back in the next 2 minutes. If you don't happen to have a flat file of all your listings, then we can build you a flat file for that listing and then just re-upload it. As long as you've got your unique product identifier, whether you're using a EAN barcode, UPC barcode, or the ASIN, we can just use that to reinstate it from Amazon Central Catalog. Then it'll be back in your Seller Central account. Also, you need to obviously you can see the sorry not obviously, but you can see the FNSKU in the back end in your FBA inventory, so then you can link it to your inventory that's an FBA as well. So yeah, we can do that as standard. It's not really such a bad issue.
Yeah, and actually, by the way, having a flat file of all your listings is a really seriously good idea. I think that if somebody goes away from this episode, only does that, they've really gained value because that's could save a whole world of complication later, right? I mean, that sounds like a great idea. Final question then is a little on the tactical side, is one about layering coupon codes. So a friend of mine was recently saying, I think he basically wants to be able to have a sort of 10% off for life kind of idea of knocking around, I think probably for people on his email list, and then also be able to put on a 10%, what was the word? It's sort of cross-sell coupon. So if you've used this product, if you go and buy product B, then you get 10% off. And he didn't want them to layer on top of each other. So,
Mm.
is there any solution to how to deal with something like that?
I mean, I think we talked about this before. I mean, as far as I understand from what we talked about before, all the guy needs to do is tick the little button, which says you can't be used with another coupon code. There must be something slightly more complicated going on, because otherwise, when you create the coupon code, you just need to tick that little box.
Yeah.
Offer cannot be used in conjunction with any other offer on
Yes.
the offer creation page.
Yeah. I think you're right. There may be something else that I've missed some detail there because it was sort of from memory and a while ago. But
Hmm.
okay, well, yes, that would be an obvious thing to do. Um, so tell me a little bit about the zooming sort of out from the very, very tactical, but zooming back into the time frame we're in at
Hmm.
the moment, mid-May 2020. There's some issues shipping into Seller Central and stuff like that. I mean, I think it's shifting by the week. What's your understanding of where that's at now in accepting products and categories and delivery times and things like that?
I mean, yeah, it's been super interesting to watch and a bit crazy, hasn't it? With
Yeah,
things moving around, things going crazy. I mean, Amazon the entire time said that they weren't throttling sales,
hmm,
but the entire time they were doing that, they were moving delivery times out 6 weeks so that
yeah,
people didn't order.
yeah,
So that's how they were throttling sales. For our clients in general, we've been very lucky. Um, no one's had a very detrimental hit to it. Some sales are down, some sales are up, and some people can't ship in, so we've been using a 3PL. Luckily, they were already set up. So, I mean, I think this is kind of a wake up call for a lot of people to have a 3PL set up. I mean, as well as actually saving a lot of money, because in Q4, if you've got Amazon massively overstocked, it does really add up, and having a 3PL can be a significant cost saving. We've seen shipment times getting better. Not still always amazing, but way better than they were. And also, Amazon has been way less backed up on orders. I mean, at one point, they were backed up with more than 80% of orders taking more than 3 days to ship when we were monitoring it about a month ago. And now that's below 20%. So, yeah, it's a good thing. In terms of categories you can ship in, we've seen most things open up, but some things you still can't ship in. I mean, it's mid-May, isn't it? By the time this goes out, everything will have changed. So we will see what it says, what they're saying at the time.
This is true. I was thinking there's a bit of a danger there. So, but yeah. So it sounds like anyway the trend, as you said, we have discussed it before on one of our sort of what do you call it, a panel discussion. So looks like things are moving in the right direction. As you said, I mean, with Amazon, this always speaks with forked tongue because, yeah, they weren't throttling sales officially, but they were just giving people horrible delivery times, and that meant that they didn't bother. So, yeah, I think anyway, that sounds like that trend is being reversed. Of course, if we wait long enough, there'll be a secondary wave of infections, and it'll all start again in a different way. He says, "I hope I'm wrong, by the way," but I can see that one coming already. So obviously. You've got a significant body of knowledge and expertise that you guys have built up with SellerCandy. It sounds like it could be a helpful solution for overstressed entrepreneurs running stuff. So just tell us swiftly what sort of thing you can offer and give us a place to come contact you as well.
Oh, sure. I mean, like I said, our bundle offer is from $400 to $900. At $500, we start doing monitoring, and we can drop our professional package to $500 for anyone that's listening to this podcast. If you want to get that offer, you just need to go to sellercandy.com or email me, John, easy, John, at sellercandy.com, and I'll set you up, because we like to have a introductory call anyway to make sure that you're a good fit. We don't want to onboard everybody. If you don't fit our system, we want to make sure that we can add value and that we'll do before you sign up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's about it. You can find me, John, at sellercandy.com. Check out our website. It's basically a one-pager, tells you about what we do. And yeah, I look forward to speaking to anyone that's interested in the service.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, it's certainly worth checking out for anyone who's just banging their head against the brick wall of Seller Central all day, which a lot of people end up doing. And if you're below a certain size, it's not worth having somebody in house, as you said, because they'll be busy all the time. But if you're not, if you're dealing with it yourself every so often, you're going to spend 20 hours a week on it, and that doesn't make sense, as you say. It's not a strategic use of time, so worth checking out by the sound of it. Anyway, so SellerCandy.com, and I guess if they mention Amazing FBA, they make sure that you're going to treat them right. I'm sure you don't treat everybody well anyway.
And they get discount if they and they get the discounts. They get the pro package for $497 rather than, I believe it's $597 at the moment.
Great. So pro package is going to be $100 discount. So worth mentioning as ever. Just remains for me to say thanks very much. I know we're going to talk about running an agency on our next episode, which is very interesting to get the inside skinny on that. But for the moment, very many thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Michael.